Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice, actually sunny Saturday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. A few things to talk about in the short-term time frame today, and also a bit of a look at the higher-term time frames as well. We'll address the question of what's essentially changed and been confirmed in the higher-term time frames, and also what essentially I'd be looking for to kind of create a nice little base in Bitcoin, of which, well, we'll get into that soon enough. Anyways, with that said, if you do find this content valuable, if you just want to give back, if you want to get back in a free way, a nice and costless way to do that is simply like the video, if you so desire. And then also to let you know while we are here, and while today's video is probably gonna be on the shorter side as well, the premium features for the Krown trading application are now live. You can learn more about them in the, learn more tab over here. Explains exactly what you get. Basically, you get access to a newsletter, all of the short-term data in our underlying market dynamics right here, like hourly data feeds, and then of course the Jewel Light as well. So with all of that said, let's jump into it right now, wasting no more time. And we are essentially looking at the exact same range as yesterday. We got the short-term bounce that we're looking for to the top side of the very, very short-term time frame range, and the old LARP lines somewhat playing out right there. Not because I look at them as like infallible, but because we're likely looking at some boring sideways price action, especially during a holiday time, as yesterday was Good Friday. So happy Good Friday to all the people maybe still celebrate. I don't know if you like go outside at night, like go clubbing or something for a holiday like that. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Price action going to be more or less boring, I do expect, into probably Sunday or Sunday night, early Monday morning, perhaps. Anyways, in this case right here, we do still see that volatility is actually contracting on the short-term time frames, kind of generating that bit of a narrative. And if I did have to call it right now, seeing as we did kind of test the top side of the short-term time frame range, probably going to come back down and test the bottom side of it, as we do see short-term time frame momentum oscillators starting to get a bit of a more precarious place. You will notice that the 12-hour right here is going into contraction phase, so likely sideways, and probably a little bit of downside, but will turn down officially with any sort of a closure below 40,450, which Bitcoin's technically $50 below right now. Obviously, that's like a Bitcoin sneeze, especially with like another 5 hours until closure left to go. So it doesn't really mean all that much. But if we go and reference the other short-term timeframes, like the 6 hour showing pressure down below 40,300, the 4 hour is going to be showing pressure down below 40,200, the 3 hour is going to be showing pressure down below 40,150, and then the hourly I think is probably flippy-floppy, probably down right now actually below 40,550. So if I have to call it, looking for a little bit of short-term sideways, a little bit of short-term downside. But just like yesterday, I don't think that Bitcoin has the power or strength here to neither break to the upside nor the downside out of this short-term time frame range. So I would be wrong on that, and I would look for a move to the upside, a continuation move to the upside, with any sort of a 4 hour closure above about $41,000. In this case, targets up towards basically our 0.5 here, just shy of about $43,000, kind of where I'd be looking for. And then I'd just be looking at it as another range resolution. Obviously going to be looking for a short-term pullback first if Bitcoin were to hit that region. Again, this is like very far away to begin with. And then, Bitcoin sets in a higher low above about 41.5. I would be looking for perhaps another move up towards 44. By the same token, to the downside, I would not be looking for a general continuation to new lows on this drop off until Bitcoin's close in 4 hour dildos, especially below about 39,200 or so. Over a weekend though, I would probably err on the side of caution by using a higher term time frame than a 4 hour. But ultimately, not really seeing all that much interesting price action right here, but keep in mind where all these sort of pain points are, because as long as Bitcoin is, hovering around them, I do expect that a little bit of sideways here in the short term very likely leads towards another test of the downside, and that can be anywhere between about 39.5 to 39 base in this case. Anyways, and that rhymes, so that it's true. Anyways, I want to now talk about one of the bigger things that I've really been keeping an eye on, the global open interest here. I won't go through the full rigmarole with this, explaining, hey, when it gets above 13.5 billion, you get a local high confirmed. It's been a minimum of 20% pullback, and in some cases even 50% pullback, of which we've seen, we've already seen 18% of that pullback from high to low thus far, 18.5%. This was kind of the big thing that we were looking at last week alongside the daily BBWP reads. So, if you are going to be looking for the full on 20 or so percent pullback from that puts Bitcoin somewhere around about 38. So that would be kind of my next target if Bitcoin does break the short-term time frame lows. Sorry, that's more like 37.5 to 37 base in this case. And that also rhymes, so that is true yet again. But the more important thing right here, as we do kind of come off extremes and also playing out that major divergence between open interest and what we did see in, open interest and price action, is we have seen over the past couple of years here that there has been like a sort of reset level, if you will, on open interest. Now, naturally, this rises up over time because it is a maturing asset, and maturing assets, naturally just going to have more people involved with them, or, as time goes onwards and forwards. So that should theoretically go up, but it is, I would say, about 10 billion or so. For current reference, we are at 12.71 billion on the hourly fee, just basically right around the same area as well. So I wouldn't necessarily be convinced that Bitcoin's put in a major, maybe even macro low, possible, I suppose, but at least major low until we do see reads somewhere down around there, like reasonably close to that region. Obviously, lower is probably going to be a little bit better for an overall reset. And well, at that point, we can kind of reassess. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin has to go down. Now, we do interpret, or at least I interpret this as mostly long leverage here, simply because it has been coming down alongside price action. So, theoretically, that's people mostly getting wrecked, to be fair. But, this can come off many different ways, right? People could obviously leave their positions down, and we could theoretically have a low here if spot price action essentially absorbs the blow, and we see this come down into those sort of more reset-like levels. Possible. I don't think it's very likely, but it is possible. So I don't want to just be all like doom and gloom like that. And of course, we should go over the potential bear trap situation. It's the same conditions as before, but hey, if Bitcoin can trade and close a daily above the 618 Fibonacci retracement on a bearish retracement from our current range highs to lows at about $44,000, I would say that yes, this is a confirmed bear trap. I would be looking at targets well into the $50,000 over the following weeks, and maybe even more than that over time as well. But as long as Bitcoin's below there, the probabilities and the likelihood and the risk remains to the downside still. And again, probably doesn't happen all in one day, obviously. But remember, we do have several other things to be aware of right here. So I'm gonna go now into what the biggest thing that's happened the most recent, and that is of course the 5-day chart. Yet again, this one still has not left us. Starting off with the 5-day BBWP reads, which are on the lows. Anytime that we have seen in the past few years, BBWP on the 5-day measuring volatility, of course, the dispersion of returns, if you will, in the teens or especially even lower than that, the expansive phase from those extreme lows has had a pretty large effect, if you will, on average producing about a 45% move to the upside or the downside from that expansive phase. Moi moi. Elsa's going away now. And it typically leads towards the higher the low of that move on an average of about just over 40 days in this case as well. So if we were to look at it from here, this would imply from current price action and upside, if we were to see expansion exactly from here, an upside move somewhere around just, in the upper 50s, somewhere between about 58 to 60,000. I have 56 right here because when I first did this analysis, like we were way lower, but we still haven't seen the expansion phase from it. To the downside, obviously that's going to be somewhere actually right around here, about 23 to 25,000 bucks, I'd say. Now keep in mind, I would not consider this move in progress until we see two things. One, the BBWP itself having a positive slope and also above the moving average for at least like a closure or two, so that we can really see, something like this, like these, this is what we're looking for. Like these first legs up, BBWP went up by like 20% in one fucking move, right? We haven't seen that just yet over here. And now it would also be reasonable to say that as long as this is low like this, or because this has been so low for so long, the expansive phase from this particular one is probably going to be greater than a lot of the ones that we have seen in the past. So it'd be reasonable to say that, this might even be a greater than 50% move, definitely possible. And for the Bulaw's sake, I would hope that it goes to the upside. But again, as long as we're especially below even the short-term time frame range highs, which is about 41 to 41.5, risk remains to the downside. And what I've also been using to kind of get a bias on general price action regarding the volatility expansion on the 5-day, on those reads, is the 5-day stochastic momentum oscillator, of which anytime that we have seen the stochastic momentum turning alongside the volatility expansion, that has actually been the direction, perfectly for at least the last few years right here. Now, you can obviously backtest yourself, or you can just, I guess you can also just look at this and it's pretty fucking obvious, like down, up, down right here. Obviously, that's down, up, down right there. And then the reason why I'm calling this out is because we have two things going on right now. And again, the signal is not relevant until we see volatility expansion. So these ones are on the actual volatility expansion when 5-day five-day stochastic momentum was actually like in a direction. For right now, we have seen our first cross to the downside since basically late January. On this, on that last closure last night, which was below the pivot at $43,000. Also, we played out a bit of a trendline regression test right here. Not the best thing as well, showing a little bit of a rejection at the bullish control zone. Now, here's the more damning fact about this as of the current moment, and that is this. We can forecast what price action would be needed in order to force a cross back up, favoring the bulls yet again, putting the probabilities in their favor, obviously. But the number for that to happen has moved up significantly from $43,000 for the last closing period to now $45,550 for this next 5-day closing period. And the DMI actually right around there as well. So, that is to say that if Bitcoin trades above there, I feel extremely confident calling a major move to the upside. We're very likely going to see volatility expansion on a move like that if it were to happen. And that would obviously, probably just be a nice little melt up to the current, about the current all-time highs in the, 60s, let's say, give or take a few bucks from that number. Probably more of a time as well, to be fair. But for right now, risk does remain lower as long as this condition is met. And well, this is not like the best look right here, especially with the rejection right at the silver cross. Now, I don't think that that works too well on this time frame, to be quite fair with you. At least from my own backtesting, dailies and aboves are not actually that great in the way that I like to play them myself. If you actually just look at the general cross, that actually does work pretty well. But in this case right here, again, that does kind of make me consider that Bitcoin can obviously trade lower. So where does the hopium essentially end as far as I'm concerned? Well, here would be the hopium look for myself. The hopium look for myself is that, hey, Bitcoin's just come back down to the $39,000 level. We're playing out another higher low, and we already got a higher high right here. So it's just creating an uptrend. It's, scaring the shit out of everyone, and it's going to flip back up, bounce off this $39,000 region and work its way upwards and onwards. Just gonna be another ascending triangle, a reaccumulation formation, confirmed fully above technically the current highs. I'd even say that that's confirmed, like I said, above about $44,000 on a daily closing basis. However, again, that's hopium, and that will be completely destroyed if Bitcoin does close, especially below about $38,000 on a daily closing basis. Again, I don't think that this would happen over the weekend, if it's going to even happen at all, but understand that the Boolah hopium, at least from the way that I'm looking at it, is it would be unreasonable to be looking at if Bitcoin does close below that region. So I'd be looking for a test somewhere around that region if Bitcoin breaks its current lows, again with the 4-hour closure below about 39.2 or so. So that obviously put it in a precarious place. Again, I don't think that is happening over the weekend, but fair enough. Well, we'll kind of get to that bridge if we need to, I suppose. Anyways, other than that, I don't really have too much else to add on to this. It does look like another drive of hidden bearish evidence on a phantom drive. It's probably going to formulate in there, but as of right now, not getting the actual signal, but that actually kind of make things a little bit easier. I expect that if Bitcoin closes like an hourly below about 40,150, we'll probably see all those momentum oscillators play down for another test towards the current lows, and probably another bounce off the current lows as well, doing the old LARP lines there. Anyways, I think that's a good place to leave this one off. I want to wish you well, take care, and see you hopefully soon.